The Golden Palace doors closed behind her with a heavy thud that echoed through marble hallways, dripping in wealth beyond imagination. What happened next would send shockwaves through the sporting world that are still reverberating today. Inside that opulent room in Abu Dhabi, a young woman barely out of her teens stood face to face with one of the most powerful men on the planet. Within 20 seconds, she would make a decision that would redefine what it means to be a champion in the modern era. Welcome to a story so extraordinary, so unbelievable, that if it were fiction, publishers would reject it as too far-fetched. This is the story of how Alexandria Eala, a 20-year-old tennis player from the Philippines, brought a billionaire to his knees and then walked away from a deal worth more money than most countries produce in a year. This is the story of how one moment of courage restored the soul of tennis and reminded the world that some things cannot be bought, no matter how many zeros are on the check. The tennis courts of Abu Dhabi were blazing under the relentless desert sun, but the heat outside was nothing compared to the fire burning inside the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open tournament venue. Filipino flags waved like a crimson and blue ocean, transforming what should have been a routine WTA tournament into something that felt more like a Davis Cup final on home soil. The chants of Laban Pilipinas thundered through the stands, a war cry that sent chills down spines and put steel in the heart of their beloved champion. Alex Ala was in the zone, playing tennis that transcended mere sport and entered the realm of national pride. Her journey through the tournament had been nothing short of miraculous. First, she faced her best friend Zeynep Sonmez across the net, a match that should have been emotionally devastating, but instead showcased Eala's ability to compartmentalize, to separate friendship from competition, to honor both relationships by giving absolutely everything on the court. She won that match, and though the embrace at the net was genuine and warm, there was no mistaking the warrior who had just claimed victory. Then came the match that would become legendary, the encounter that would set the stage for everything that followed. Alexandra Sasnovich, a seasoned professional ranked well above Eala, seemed to have the match wrapped up with a pretty bow. She led 4-0 in the deciding set. Match point arrived. The Philippine fans fell silent, holding their breath, preparing their hearts for the disappointment that seemed inevitable. Professional tennis is brutal at these moments. When you're down a double break in the third set, when your legs are burning and your lungs are screaming for mercy, when every shot your opponent makes seems to land on the line while yours clip the net, the easy thing to do is to let go. Take your paycheck, shake hands, and live to fight another day. But something extraordinary happened on that court in Abu Dhabi. Alex Eala reached into a reservoir of courage that no amount of money could ever purchase. She saved the match point. Then she saved another. And another. Point by agonizing point, game by impossible game, she clawed her way back into a match that had already been written off. The crowd found their voice again, rising from stunned silence to thunderous support. The chants grew louder, the flags waved harder, and Eala fed off that energy like a warrior drawing strength from her ancestors. When she finally sealed the victory in a tiebreak that had the entire tennis world on the edge of their seats, the roar that erupted wasn't just celebration, it was vindication. It was proof that heart matters, that fighting spirit cannot be manufactured, that some athletes possess an intangible quality that separates them from everyone else. In that moment, Alexandria Eala wasn't just a tennis player who had won a match. She was a symbol of everything beautiful about sport. A reminder that competition at its purest is about pushing beyond what you think is possible and finding a way to win when all logic says you should lose. What the world watching that match didn't know, what the commentators couldn't possibly have understood, was that this comeback meant even more than anyone realized. Because according to sources deep within the Abu Dhabi sporting elite, Alex Eala had just turned down an offer that would have made her the richest female athlete in history. She had just walked away from a deal so enormous, so comprehensive, so seductive, that the fact she was still on the WTA tour at all was a minor miracle. The whispers started immediately after her dramatic victory over Sasnovich. Insiders began speaking in hushed tones about a secret meeting, about a private audience with Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the billionaire owner of Manchester City, and one of the most influential figures in global sports. The details that emerged were so sensational they seemed impossible, yet multiple sources confirmed the same basic facts. After witnessing Eala's magnetic connection with the Filipino crowd, after seeing how her name could light up a stadium and bring an entire nation together, the Sheikh decided he wanted more than just her participation in a tournament. He wanted to own her future. The meeting allegedly took place in an ultra-exclusive private wing of the Zayed Sports City complex, a VIP enclave that most people don't even know exists. The room was said to be something out of an Arabian Nights fantasy, lined with velvet curtains and deep purples and golds, the air heavy with the scent of oud and jasmine, every surface gleaming with polished marble and precious metals. This was a space designed to impress, to overwhelm, to make anyone who entered understand the sheer scale of the wealth and power they were dealing with. Eala was escorted into this palatial room not by tournament officials but by members of the royal entourage, men in traditional dress who moved with the quiet efficiency of those accustomed to serving the ultra-elite. And there, waiting for her, was Sheikh Mansour himself. But here's where the story takes its most shocking turn. The detail that has cultural observers and sports analysts still debating its significance. According to witnesses present in that room, the billionaire royal, overwhelmed by what Eala represented for the future of Asian tennis, and perhaps moved by the purity of her competitive spirit, did something almost unthinkable. He knelt, a man whose personal wealth exceeds the GDP of several nations, a member of one of the most powerful royal families on earth, a figure who commands respect and deference wherever he goes, lowered himself to one knee before a 20-year-old tennis player from the Philippines. The gesture was supposedly one of respect, a demonstration that this wasn't just a business transaction, but an acknowledgement of her value as an athlete and a symbol. Whether that interpretation is accurate or whether it was simply theater designed to sweeten an already extraordinary offer, we may never know with certainty. But the fact that multiple sources describe this scene suggests something remarkable happened in that room. What came next was the offer itself, and the leaked details are staggering enough to make even the most jaded sports agent's jaw drop. This wasn't a standard sponsorship deal with appearance fees and bonus clauses. This was an attempt to create an entirely new ecosystem of tennis with Eala as its centerpiece, its queen, its singular attraction. The proposal would have required Eala to surrender her freedom on the WTA Tour and become the permanent flagship player of a new rival tennis circuit based exclusively in Abu Dhabi. The financial terms were beyond anything ever offered to a female athlete in any sport. A $1 billion payment upfront, delivered immediately upon signing. To put that in perspective, that's more than the combined career prize money of Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic. That's more than Serena Williams earned in her entire legendary career. That's instant generational wealth that would secure not just Eala's future, but the futures of her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. But the money didn't stop there. The contract allegedly included an annual salary of $600 million for the next 10 years, bringing the total guaranteed payout to $7 billion. $7 billion to play tennis in Abu Dhabi. $7 billion to give up the WTA Tour, to abandon the dream of Wimbledon and Roland Garros and the US Open, to become something between an athlete and a living attraction. The perks were engineered to seduce even the most principled superstar. A private Boeing 787 Dreamliner, customized specifically for her, with gold-plated interiors, a dedicated medical suite, sleeping quarters that would make five-star hotels jealous, and a full-time crew at her disposal. Travel would never be a problem again. No more budget airlines, no more cramped economy seats on red-eye flights, no more sleeping in modest hotels while grinding through ITF tournaments. They promised to build her own tennis complex, the Alexandria Abu Dhabi Arena, constructed on a private island with state-of-the-art facilities that would make the All England club look modest. The complex would include multiple courts with different surfaces, a world-class gym, recovery facilities featuring cryotherapy chambers and hyperbaric oxygen tanks, and living quarters fit for royalty. The proposal included the creation of an entirely new tournament, the Abu Dhabi Diamond Tennis Championship, where Eala would be the permanent headliner with a prize fund of $150 million. Even if she lost in the first round, she would walk away with more money than most Grand Slam champions earn for winning the whole tournament. And, of course, she would be guaranteed to play in front of adoring crowds, with the Filipino diaspora in the UAE forming a built-in fan base that would fill every seat. It was an offer designed to make her the wealthiest female athlete in history overnight, eclipsing Naomi Osaka's endorsement empire, surpassing Serena Williams' business ventures, dwarfing anything Maria Sharapova ever commanded at the height of her fame. This was an offer that would have made Eala richer than some professional sports franchises. Try to imagine the pressure of that moment. You're 20 years old. You've spent your entire childhood and adolescence sacrificing everything for tennis. You left your family at 12 years old to train in Spain, enduring loneliness and homesickness that would break most adults. You've ground your way through the ITF circuit, paying your own way, covering your own expenses, sometimes wondering if you'll have enough money left over after a tournament to properly feed yourself. You've dealt with injuries that threatened to end your career before it truly began. You've faced the very real possibility that despite all your talent and all your work, you might never break through to the elite level of women's tennis. And now someone is offering you $7 billion. $7 billion to make all the struggle go away. $7 billion to ensure your parents never have to work another day. $7 billion to build tennis academies across the Philippines and inspire the next generation. $7 billion to become a legend in your own country without ever having to risk the heartbreak of falling short at Wimbledon. The room fell silent. The sheikh waited, his entourage held their collective breath, and the weight of the moment pressed down on Eala's shoulders like the gravity of Jupiter. 5 seconds passed, then 10, then 15. 20 seconds of silence that must have felt like an eternity. What thoughts raced through her mind in those 20 seconds? Did she see her parents' faces remembering every sacrifice they made? Did she think about the young girls in the Philippines who looked up to her, who saw in her proof that anything was possible? Did she imagine herself at Wimbledon, holding the Venus rosewater dish above her head, while the Philippine national anthem played? Did she calculate what $7 billion could do for her country, for tennis development, for her family? And then Alexandria Eala spoke. She didn't shout or show anger. She didn't laugh off the offer or treat it with contempt. According to those present, she stood tall, looked Sheikh Mansour directly in the eye with a calm dignity that commanded respect, and delivered words that have since spread through the whispers of the tennis elite like wildfire. While the exact phrasing remains a closely guarded secret, insiders report that her response was a devastating truth that changed the entire tenor of the meeting. The essence of what she said, pieced together from multiple sources, was something along these lines. Your Highness, my passion is not for sale, and my country's flag is not a logo you can buy. I play for history, not for gold. I play to prove that a Filipina can stand on center court at Wimbledon and be called a champion. I play because my parents sacrificed everything so I could compete against the best in the world, not so I could become a paid exhibition in a golden cage. Thank you for this generous offer, but my answer is no. With those words, she turned and walked out of that opulent room, leaving $7 billion on the table. $7 billion. Let that sink in for a moment. She walked away from more money than most lottery winners could dream of. She walked away from financial security that would last multiple lifetimes. She walked away from luxury and comfort and the easy road, and she walked straight into legend. The immediate aftermath was chaos. The Sheikh's team was reportedly stunned into silence. They had prepared for negotiation, for questions about contract details, for requests to sweeten the deal even further. What they hadn't prepared for was a flat rejection, delivered with such grace and conviction that there was clearly no room for counteroffers. This wasn't a negotiating tactic. This was a line in the sand drawn by someone who understood exactly who she was and what she stood for. Word of the rejection began to leak almost immediately. In the interconnected world of professional tennis, where players, coaches, agents, and officials form a tight-knit community, secrets rarely stay secret for long. The story spread through WhatsApp groups and Signal chats, through hushed conversations in player lounges and urgent phone calls between continents. Within hours, everyone who mattered in tennis had heard some version of the story. The initial reaction was disbelief. $7 billion turned down? Impossible. Must be a negotiating ploy. She'll sign eventually. Everyone has their price. But as confirmation came from multiple independent sources, disbelief transformed into something else entirely. Awe, respect, and for some of the older players who had watched tennis become increasingly commercialized over the past decades, a sense of hope that maybe, just maybe, the soul of the sport wasn't dead after all. Social media exploded when hints of the story began to surface publicly. Filipino fans, already fiercely proud of their tennis star, elevated her to almost mythological status. Hashtags like Iron Princess and Not for Sale began trending globally. Artists created digital paintings of Eala in warrior princess attire, defending the honor of Philippine tennis against the corrupting influence of oil money. Musicians wrote songs celebrating her integrity. The Filipino diaspora scattered across the globe found a new source of unity and pride. But the response wasn't universally positive. Some criticized her decision as foolish, arguing that she could have taken the money and used it to do incredible good in the world. $7 billion could fund schools, hospitals, and tennis academies across Southeast Asia. It could lift thousands of families out of poverty. By refusing it, wasn't she being selfish, choosing personal glory over the ability to help others? These criticisms miss the fundamental point. Alex Ayala's value to the Philippines and to women's tennis isn't primarily financial. Her value lies in what she represents, in the example she sets, in the message she sends to every young athlete coming up behind her. That message is clear and powerful. Stay true to your dreams, don't take shortcuts, and remember that real glory is earned through competition, not purchased through contracts. If she had accepted the Abu Dhabi offer, she would have become the richest female athlete in history, but she also would have become a cautionary tale. She would have been the player who could have been great but chose money instead. She would have been the what if that tennis fans debated for generations. What if Alex Eala had stayed on tour? What if she had fulfilled her potential? What if she had competed against Swiatek and Sabalenka and Rybakina instead of playing exhibitions for Saudi billions? By walking away, she preserved something far more valuable than money. She preserved her dream. She preserved the possibility of greatness. She preserved her integrity as a competitor. And she sent a message that resonated far beyond tennis, a message that in an age of influencers and endorsements, and athletes selling their souls for the highest bidder, some people still believe in something bigger than the bottom line. To truly understand the magnitude of this decision, we need to understand who Alex Eala really is and where she came from. This wasn't a spoiled athlete with millions already in the bank, turning down more millions. This was a young woman from modest circumstances who had clawed her way up from nothing and who understood exactly what she was giving up. Alexandria Manuela Eala was born on May 23, 2004 in Quezon City, Philippines. The Philippines is a nation where basketball reigns supreme, where boxing produces occasional legends like Manny Pacquiao, where volleyball has a passionate following, but where tennis occupies a distant position in the sporting hierarchy. The infrastructure simply doesn't compare to tennis powerhouses like the United States, France, or Australia. Courts are limited, quality coaching is expensive and hard to find, and the path to professional tennis is littered with obstacles. But Alex's parents, Riza and Mike Eala, saw something special in their daughter from an early age. By 4 years old, she was already swinging a racket. By 6, she was competing in local tournaments and dominating children twice her age. Her natural athleticism was obvious, but what really set her apart was her competitive fire. An inner drive that refused to accept defeat, that turned every match into a personal battle she was determined to win. Supporting a potential tennis prodigy required enormous family sacrifice. Mike Eala worked multiple jobs to fund Alex's training, tournament entries, and travel expenses. Risa became everything at once: first coach, nutritionist, psychologist, chauffeur, and loudest supporter. The family budget was stretched to breaking point, with every spare peso going toward Alex's tennis development. Vacations became tournaments. Family time became practice sessions. Normal childhood experiences were sacrificed on the altar of athletic excellence. Then came the decision that would change everything. When Alex was just 12 years old, her parents made the agonizing choice to send her to Spain to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. Imagine the scene. A 12-year-old girl, barely a teenager, boarding a plane alone to fly halfway around the world to a country where she didn't speak the language, where she knew no one, where everything from the food to the climate to the culture would be completely foreign. Imagine the tears at the airport, the brave face she put on for her parents even as her heart was breaking, the loneliness of those first nights in a strange dormitory surrounded by kids she couldn't communicate with. Most children would have crumbled under that pressure. Most would have begged to come home after a few weeks, but not Alex. She was determined to make this sacrifice mean something, to prove that her parents' faith in her wasn't misplaced, to show that a Filipina could compete with the best young players in the world. The Rafa Nadal Academy isn't a tennis camp where rich kids learn backhands between swimming pool breaks. It's a crucible designed to forge champions from raw talent through relentless hard work and uncompromising standards. Training days stretched from early morning until evening, 6 to 8 hours on court working on technique, strategy, and match play, followed by fitness sessions that left muscles screaming, then mental conditioning, video analysis, and nutritional education. The competition was brutal, with the best young players from across the globe all fighting for the same dream, all desperate to prove they had what it takes to make it professionally.